I've got a challenge for you this afternoon. I've been sitting amongst you as an audience, and you're clearly very engaged. You're inspired by this idea of daring. But what do you do when you really want to make bold changes in your life? You feel that calling. You know that there's something you really want to do, but you're just not doing it. Ever had that feeling that maybe you've missed the boat? Or feeling like you're too old? Everybody else has done it already? It hurts. I've certainly had those thoughts myself. I invite you to picture the scene. I'm lying in my garden, flat on my back, in agony, after falling whilst cleaning the windows. Who does that? It's a beautiful summer's day, and I look up at the blue sky, but actually what I see are the two anxious faces of my little children looking down at me. They're scared. I can't get up. I can hear the hum of my husband still cutting the grass. He's unaware that I've fallen. And then I hear the sound of my little children running down the garden. Daddy, Daddy, Mummy's hurt. I could hear it, and it was a feeling of like, wow, what have I done? I was exhausted, a doctor, doing too much, being a mum. And here I am, I nearly broke my neck. I fell very close to a stone well. And in that moment, I'm lying there. It was one of those moments. But what did I do? I allowed myself to be helped to my feet, and I carried on. How often do we do that? How often do we ignore the sound on the inside, that voice that says, I need to stop, this is not okay. This is not working for me. Whether it's period pains or a bullying boss or a relationship that just isn't working for you. How often do we stuff down that voice inside and go back to our familiar lives and miss the boat once again? How many more catastrophes would it take for me to wake up? It actually took another 4 years. I did make a change in 2017. I left my safe job as a GP in the NHS, and I started again, completely new career, and I'm in my 50s now. And honestly, it was like jumping off a cliff. It was terrifying. And everybody was looking to me, what are you going to do? How are you going to earn money? Are you having a midlife crisis? I didn't know how to answer. But what interests me is what changed in me that allowed me to make that bold step when I hadn't been able to so many times before. The first thing that changed within me was my relationship with fear. I'd been scared of my fear and judging myself for feeling fear. Have you ever done that? Judging ourselves for our emotions? And I was also waiting to be fearless, and that just didn't seem to be happening. But what I realized when I thought about it was the actual idea of being fearless would have meant suppressing that voice inside, the voice that says when I'm not okay. And I actually didn't want to do that anymore. So instead I did something a bit unusual. I gave fear the microphone, and I listened. And what I discovered was that most of my fears are completely made up in my head. Most of the things I'm terrified of never happen. So I could kind of look at those and go, well, fine, we'll put those on one side. But some of my fears are really important. If you're going to leave a well-paid job and you have a mortgage, that fear is worth listening to. If you'd have stood me on this stage back in 2017, I wouldn't have had the skills to be able to speak. I would have just not been able to do this. So instead of trying to become fearless, I actually just developed a strategy for dealing with my fear. And if you go back to the analogy of feeling like you've missed the boat, this was me wading into the water and learning how to swim. The second change was that I stopped waiting to be rescued. I hadn't noticed how much of my life I had spent giving away my power, focusing on other people, focusing on the fact that the NHS wasn't supporting doctors and other staff in the way that I felt that they should, battling against the system, always giving away my power. And so instead I asked myself, what do you want? And how are you going to get there? And I didn't know all of the answers, but I call this becoming the captain of your own ship. And actually, Lydia said that earlier. Becoming the captain of your own ship gives you a certain steadiness because you've got the steering wheel, you're deciding where you're going to go. But there are a lot of decisions to make, and it's scary. So you need a compass to work out how you're going to steer your ship. And for me, my compass was developing an awareness of when I'm in alignment. And I want to ask you, how do you know in your body when you're fully in alignment with yourself, with your power, when you're aligned with your values, when you're being your fullest self? What's the sensation that you feel in your body? Peace, exactly. For me, it's like a warm, strong, peaceful feeling, and it runs right through the middle of my body. Learning to notice your cues when you're in alignment and when you're out of alignment is so crucial, and that has really helped me to be able to steer my ship. Now, the third thing that's really helped me, and this is important because as humans we tend to like to capsize our boat through the way we think about things, and particularly the way we think about ourselves. And what I want to talk about really is about the inner critical voice, that harsh inner critic, which can really derail us. Now, when I first started thinking about my inner critic, I realized I didn't want to get rid of it. I clung to it like a teddy bear. And that was because I was really strongly wedded to the idea that my inner critical voice had helped me to maintain high standards. It had helped me to get to where I was. And it was, I thought, how I got out of bed in the morning. So do you relate to me? The idea of, I don't really want to get rid of my inner critic. Why would I want to get rid of those things, my high standards, my moral integrity? But let me ask you something. The last time you failed, maybe you posted something on social media and nobody commented. Or maybe you tried to get a promotion or get a publisher or a new job and you failed. And your inner critic jumped into the driving seat. How motivated did you feel to try it again? You see, I thought my inner critic was motivating me, but actually it's fantastically demotivating. So what I realized was I needed to hang on to all the good bits, the high standards, the moral integrity, but I needed an internal voice that was much more motivating, that was going to help me to move forward. And this is the inner voice of the compassionate motivator, the inner best friend, sister, coach, teacher, one of the women in this room, whoever you want to visualize, who reminds you that you want to do things and pushes you because you want to do things, not because there's anything wrong with you or you need to change who you are. And for me, that's been absolute gold in helping me to steer my ship and keep moving things forward. So I want to bring this finally back to you, because something about the message that Deborah's created in this beautiful day today spoke to you. The idea of daring. And I want to ask you, what's so important about that for you? And why now? What's the urgency for you to do something, to take that step today? I really want you to think about that. And I look forward to talking to you. I hope that you'll connect with me and we can speak further. Thank you.